Who rejected the two-state solution? The Israel-Palestine conflict has lasted more than a century. It's a story of nationalism, displacement, identity, and survival. And for decades, one idea has stood at the center of efforts to resolve it: a two-state solution, a Jewish state, a Palestinian state, living side by side. But this idea, despite being proposed multiple times, has also been rejected again and again. So who said no, and why? Let's go back to the early 20th century. After World War I, Britain was granted control over Palestine under the League of Nations mandate. Its task was to create a Jewish national home while protecting the civil and religious rights of the Arab population. But in 1921, the British made a major change. They split the mandate, giving 78% of the territory east of the Jordan River to an Arab emirate, what became Transjordan, and later Jordan. That left just 22% of the original land for Jews and Palestinian Arabs to share. Even before the conflict fully took shape, a majority of historic Palestine had already been given to an Arab state. In 1937, amid rising violence between Jews and Arabs, the British Peel Commission proposed the first two-state partition of the remaining land. The plan offered a small Jewish state, a larger Arab state, and a British-administered Jerusalem. The Jewish leadership accepted it in principle, seeing it as a first step toward peace. The Arab leadership rejected it outright, not because of borders, but because they rejected the idea of a Jewish state altogether. It was a total refusal, not a negotiation. In 1947, the United Nations voted for another partition: two states, one Jewish, one Arab, with Jerusalem under international control. The Jewish agency accepted the UN plan. The Arab states and Palestinian leaders rejected it again, declaring it illegitimate. When Israel declared independence in 1948, 5 Arab countries invaded. The result? Israel survived and even expanded its territory. Jordan took the West Bank, Egypt took Gaza, no Palestinian state emerged, over 700,000 Palestinians became refugees, and about 850,000 Jews were expelled or fled from Arab countries, most of whom resettled in Israel. Two peoples, both displaced, but only one state was born. In 1967, tensions exploded again. Egypt blockaded Israeli shipping, Arab armies mobilized, Israel struck first in what became the Six-Day War. Israel captured the West Bank, Gaza, Sinai, East Jerusalem, and Golan Heights. For the first time, all of Jerusalem came under Israeli control. But instead of opening negotiations, the Arab League met in Khartoum and issued the famous 3 no's. No peace with Israel, no recognition of Israel, no negotiations with Israel. Another window for peace closed. Following the war, Israel began establishing settlements in the West Bank and Gaza. Some Israelis viewed this as reclaiming ancestral land. Others saw it as a security measure. But to Palestinians and much of the world, it was a land grab. Settlements quickly became one of the most contentious issues in peace negotiations that followed. The Oslo Accords, signed in the early 1990s, were a major breakthrough in Israeli-Palestinian relations. For the first time, Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, formally recognized each other, aiming to lay the groundwork for a two-state solution. One of the key outcomes was the creation of the Palestinian Authority and the division of the West Bank into 3 zones: Areas A, B, and C. Area A is under full Palestinian control. Area B is shared between Israel and the Palestinian Authority, while Area C, which makes up about 60% of the West Bank, remains under full Israeli control. The hope was to gradually transfer authority and build trust, but ongoing conflict, settlements, and political shifts derailed the process. Then came serious offers for a Palestinian state. In 2000, Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, backed by US President Bill Clinton, offered Yasser Arafat a state on over 90% of the West Bank and all of Gaza, with East Jerusalem as its capital. Arafat walked away without a counteroffer. Weeks later, the Second Intifada erupted. In 2008, Prime Minister Ehud Olmert made another offer: 94% of the West Bank, land swaps, and a shared Jerusalem. Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas didn't accept it. He later said he was never shown the full map, but the offer was never taken. Today, the West Bank is governed by the Palestinian Authority. Gaza is controlled by Hamas, a group whose founding charter calls for the destruction of Israel. While many Palestinians support a peaceful resolution, the factions in power have often refused to accept Israel's right to exist, let alone two states side by side. Between 2016 and 2022, support for a two-state solution dropped dramatically from 51 to 33% among Palestinians and from 53% to 34% among Israeli Jews. Israeli Arabs remained consistently supportive, with about 80% backing the idea, while Israeli settlers showed very low support throughout, between 15 to 24%. Meanwhile, from 2017 to 2020, the top national priority among Gazans shifted decisively toward regaining all of historical Palestine, rising from 49% to 56%, as support for a two-state solution declined from 37% to 31%. In the West Bank, this trend was even more pronounced. Support for reclaiming all of historical Palestine jumped from 30% to 66%, while the two-state option fell from 44% to just 14%. Then, on October 7, 2023, Hamas unleashed terror on Israeli civilians. It wasn't a protest, it was a massacre. Over 1,200 people killed, families torn apart, and any remaining Israeli belief in peaceful coexistence shattered. It wasn't just an attack, it was a message. Coexistence is not on the table. And when slogans like "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free" echo at global rallies, many Israelis hear a call not for peace, but for their erasure. In early 2025, President Donald Trump returned with a new plan, transforming Gaza into a real estate opportunity. To some, it's visionary. To others, it's offensive, treating a people's homeland as beachfront property for outsiders, ignoring history, pain, and politics. So, who rejected the two-state solution? There is no single answer, but the historical pattern is consistent. In 1937, 1947, 1967, and 2008, offers for two states were put forward, and in each case, Palestinian and Arab leadership turned them down. That doesn't mean Israel bears no responsibility. Far from it. Settlement expansion, military occupation, and blockades have deepened mistrust and suffering. But if we're honest with the history, it shows that every serious attempt at two states has faced a firm no from those who might have had the most to gain. Until that changes, until both sides accept not just peace, but each other's right to exist, the dream of two states will remain just that, a dream. If you found this explanation insightful, please like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth content on global affairs.